Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video. Today, we are going to be talking about some polling opinions and who I think you should pull versus not pull in the upcoming update. This is the first time ever that we are getting a quadruple banner in one update, which I don't think we've seen across Star Rail or Genshin. And for this, I want to do a little special occasion because I don't usually do these videos, but I want to talk about some characters that I recommend pulling versus don't recommend pulling, and which ones you should pull in the upcoming Star Rail update, because this is very important stuff and you're going to need to know which character is best for your account. The four characters we're going to talk about today are, of course, Robin, Kafka, Black Swan, and Feixiao in that order. But before we do that, do make sure to subscribe to the channel. Only a small percentage of you are actually subscribed. And if this video helped you out a little bit, it really would mean a lot to me. But regardless, let's get into today's video. So the first character I want to touch on is Robin. Robin is a very unique character who is very universal, and it can honestly fit into a lot of different team comps. One of my favorite comps with her is fitting her with other follow-up attack characters. For example, she works great with Topaz and Numby. She works well with Clara. You can fit her in teams with Dr. Ratio and all the other follow-up attack characters, and she will work amazing. But don't worry, even if you don't have follow-up attack characters, you can always fit her with a multitude of other units. She also works pretty well in DOT teams. You can fit her with like Kafka and Black Swan, for example. In fact, these three actually make a pretty good team if you're able to throw another healer or sustainer in there. You can even throw her on a team with Acheron, although Acheron wants some other supports, not particularly Robin, but it can work if you do need it. And that's what makes her so good, is her universal ability. I don't know if that's a word, but we're going to make it a word just for Robin. The other reason I'm particularly a big fan of Robin is because she's actually super easy to build. If you have a 3-star light cone called Meshing Cogs, you can simply just throw that on her, and it's actually a pretty decent light cone for her. Obviously, there are better 4-star options. For example, For Tomorrow's Journey, which I believe is a free light cone that you could get from an event. So if you already have this is an amazing light cone for Robin, and it's completely free. And luckily, her relics are also, again, super easy to build. You just want to stack as much attack on her as possible, prioritizing attack over everything else. And then energy regen on the rope, you're set. You're good to go. That's all you need on Robin is attack, 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 attack. You just want to stack as much attack on her. As you can see, I have 4K on my Robin. I'd also like to state one of the reasons they're actually putting Robin on the banner is because of her ability to work really well with Feixiao. Her and Feixiao are a really good pairing, and we're going to see that in a couple days when we get the early access videos to them. Those two work really well together. We're going to get into how Feixiao works and why Feixiao is so good a little bit later. But for right now, just know that Feixiao and Robin is a really good pairing. And the reason they're rerunning Robin is because they want you to pull Robin and Feixiao and go for both of the units at once. That's the reason Robin is rerunning. I said that as a fact, but it's not necessarily a fact. That's just my opinion on why she's rerunning. Regardless of that, though, Robin is a really solid unit because she gives crazy buffs with her skill, which gives a 40 to 50% increase to all your allies' attack. Her ultimate is just an 100% team-wide action advance, which is pretty broken in this game, and it's one of the reasons she's so universal and so good. She's, of course, very SP efficient because she doesn't take like any skill points at all, which again makes her very universal. And that's why Robin is personally one of my favorite characters in the game. And if you have the right 5 stars to pair with her, like a Topaz and Numby, like a Dr. Ratio, then I highly recommend you pick her up. The next character we're going to talk about is Kafka. Now, Kafka, I'm going to be honest, is probably the worst of the 4 here, objectively. However, that being said, I do think Honkai Star Rail is a game where you can just pull any character you want, and they can be good in their own little niches. So regardless of where a character might stand in a tier list, you can always find uses for every character. Now, Kafka is kind of like the DOT queen, if you will. She kind of runs the whole DOT section right now. She is the center of it all. She used to be the #1 Nihility character until Acheron came out, and then she kind of got overshadowed. But that being said, she's still a really good character, and you can use her to beat most of the endgame content pretty easily. She's not as universal as Robin is. There's only a couple team comps you really can fit her in, and those are all revolving around using DOT characters characters like Kekvin, Black Swan, and other DOT units that help her do more damage essentially. So you're a little more limited in your team options, but regardless, you can even throw her in team comps with Acheron if you do have her. A lot of her team comps do require multiple 5-star units, so I would recommend if you do have a Kafka going for either an Acheron or a Black Swan, you probably want to have one of the two to combine with her or put together. If you have no Black Swan, no Acheron, then I wouldn't highly recommend pulling a Kafka. I would only recommend pulling her if you have one of the two already. Unlike Robin, she takes a little bit more investment. You really want to have a strong light cone for her. Her best in slot is obviously your signature, but other than that, you can have the option of going Good Night Sleep Well, which is a gotcha light cone, Eyes of the Prey, which is another gotcha light cone. There aren't too many crazy free-to-play options for her. A lot of them are gotcha, but if you do end up getting them, they can be really solid on her. Again, her relics are a little more high investment worthy. You really want to be trying to get 134 speed on her from her boots. Don't do what I do. Don't run a crit Kafka. Don't be dumb like me. I just do this because I think it's funny. Generally, you want to be running Kafka, speed, attack percent, lightning damage, and attack percent rope, because you need attack percent for all your DOT characters. Overall, Kafka, really solid character. She's honestly a better character because she can put out pretty consistent damage regardless of like how much crit you have on her, because crit honestly really does not matter on her at all. So she's very easy to get consistent damage off with. The only thing that matters is how many debuffs you can get on the enemy, and then how many of those debuffs you can trigger with her ultimate and her scale ability. Of course, she can also apply DOT herself with things like her talent, her skill, etc. They all apply DOT, which again helps her even more. But anyways, to summarize it, Kafka, really solid unit, great in DOT comps, falls a little bit in comparison when compared to Acheron, but still can help you beat most of the content in the game pretty easily. And let's move on to her counterpart, Black Swan, who is another really solid character. Black Swan, I'm a big fan of, but again, I think she's a character where you need other characters to make her better. She's a really solid unit, being able to apply the Arcana debuff, which is a really powerful debuff that you're able to stack up to 50 times, and basically it just does a ton of wind damage. She's another character who's really good paired with Acheron and Kafka. And again, I think this is another situation where if you don't have Acheron or Kafka, I don't recommend picking up Black Swan. Almost all of her strongest team comps involve using these two units combined with her, or just one of them. So if you don't have one of those two, I wouldn't highly recommend picking Black Swan up. However, when combined with them, she can be a really good unit. Her talent is actually a defense shred, and these little stacks of Arcana actually help to ignore adjacent targets' defense, which is really, really huge when pairing her with a character like Acheron, who loves defense shred, especially paired with like Pela, Black Swan, and Silverwolf. And that's what makes those two so good together. In my opinion, she is another character that requires quite a bit of investment to make her good. You really want to make sure you have a solid amount of effect hit rate on her. Honestly, I'd recommend way more than I have. 82% I don't think is enough. I'd recommend somewhere in the 100 plus range for effect hit rate for her. Again, she's another character that values speed a lot as well, so you want to make sure you have a lot of speed on her. That's going to be another very important stat. Other than that though, just attack percent, energy regen can work too, but generally attack percent is your best option. As for light cone options, she has a couple good ones. There are a lot that can work with her. Generally, the best ones are things like Kafka's light cone, can work very well. Eyes of the Prey can work very well as well. The one I'm using right now is It's Showtime because it gives me more attack percent, which I really like. And also this is a free light cone that you can get to Super Imposition 5. So she can actually value from some of those free to play light cones. She's another 5-star unit that you can take late into the game. And again, will provide you with a ton of value. She will never be bad in any of the content as long as you pair her with the right units and you have either Kafka or Acheron to pair with her. She will do a ton of good for you in that late game content with her defense shred, her debuffs, their Arcana stacks, which do a crap ton of damage, her ultimate, which is probably one of the most broken ultimates in a game, in my opinion. You launch the hands up to the air, you get Epiphany, and then you can apply even more Arcana stacks. It's really good. Basically, what Epiphany does is it makes all the enemies take increased damage, and also their Arcana will last an additional turn on top of the turn that it already lasts. Really good ultimate. I'm a big fan of this character. If you're planning to build DOT teams, then I highly recommend you pick up Black Swan. Now, we have one last character to talk about, and it's a character I don't have. So we're gonna have to move over to YouTube and the only content we have so far, which is this live stream right here, which showcases Feixiao a little bit. Now, unfortunately, I cannot go too deep into this character. Now, what I will say, she's a hunt character. Objectively, hunt characters are slightly bad in MOC because there isn't a lot of times where you'll be facing single bosses. For example, if we look at the MOC now, you'll notice that there's a lot of bosses that usually have a side ally or a side enemy. So you generally want units that attack one or more enemies. However, with that being said, I think Feixiao is so powerful to the point where it just doesn't even matter. Her damage output looks crazy. The things that she's able to do on the field are crazy. Basically, she's like kind of an Acheron copy, but in hunt version. Basically, imagine if Acheron did single target damage. And that's how you can envision Feixiao. Feixiao is a very solid unit. Also, her ultimate works very similar to the way Acheron works, except instead of needing debuff to charge up, you can just legitimately attack with any of your allies, and that will charge up the ultimate. It's insane. Every 2 times your allies attacks, you get 1 little point down here in the bottom left, and then once you reach 6 points, you can unleash your ultimate, which is just a huge detrimental attack. Also, she has her own follow-up attacks as well, which helps her gain points towards it. And obviously, because it's Honkai Star Rail, they're gonna want you to pull the character. So you can expect in the next update, they are gonna make an MOC, an apocalyptic shadow, or a pure fiction dedicated to her and trying to convince you to pull her by making the content specifically for her. That's just how the game works. That's what they like to do with these MOCs and endgame content. They like to match it to the character that's coming out to convince you to pull them. So no matter what, she's going to be good for the next update. Past that next update, I can't speak too much. I do see her synergy with other follow-up attack units being very high. For example, characters like Topaz and Numby, I think she'll be really good with. Robin is another good example. And then also Mose, who is the other upcoming character, I see her being very good with. So if you do have any of those, I do highly recommend picking up this character. Again, she looks freaking awesome. And her talent ability is one of the coolest ones in the entire game when you walk around and you swoop up all the enemies to swirl around you. I think that's freaking awesome. So regardless of her kit or what she does, if you just want an awesome looking wolf girl who can sweep up all her enemies, then hey, there you go. But regardless, I hope this video helped you out a little bit and helped your decision be a little bit easier. And if it did help you, make sure to subscribe down below, leave a like on the video. But regardless, that's gonna be all for me today, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.